Well, now it's an open and shut case of the big three on TV, with a shameless conviction for the news.
Good evening and welcome to the programme that is to news what McDonald's is to a balanced diet. In the headlines this week, good news for the British film industry as the National Lawnmower Association agrees to sponsor a remake of Ben-Hur. Following the recent breakdown in Anglo-Chinese relations, a special envoy is sent to use her charm on the Chinese people. And sport. Following the success of the cheerleaders at Sky TV soccer matches, the BBC adopts the same idea for Crown Green bowling. On Ian Hislop's team, someone who for the past 19 years has been the stalwart of Radio 4's News Quiz, a programme now widely acknowledged to be shamelessly copied from this one, The Times' Alan Coren. And with Paul Merton this week, a man who used to boast the double-barrelled surname of Fiddler Simpson, although he dropped the fiddler part because it looked rather suspect when he put in travel expenses, BBC foreign editor John Simpson. So let's wander aimlessly into round one. 2 moving pieces of film per team. What are the major news stories they illustrate? Ian and Alan, all change, please.
There's the Chancellor, the ex-Chancellor, rather. Sad, isn't it?
Because of your...
Oh, there's the new ex-Chancellor.
Yes, well, if you're watching it on Friday night, that's the last Cabinet Shuffle. If you're watching the repeat, it's the last Cabinet Shuffle but one, I should think. Doesn't the word shuffle, it's never been more appropriate, really, has it, in these circumstances? You see these buggers sidling in. Would you like to be Home Secretary, Mr. Howe? Oh, very agreeable. I'm much obliged to you. Shuffle out again.
Kenneth Clarke's got the job of Chancellor, which is excellent, because he's got the experience for it. Do you remember he was in education? No problem in schools now. Ran the health service, that's tickety-boo. Then he was Home Secretary, an end to crime. Can't wait to see what he does with the economy.
Yes, it is the sacking, resignation, sorry, of Norman Lamont, who says he's retiring in order to spend more time at the off-licence. The first person Lamont told of his resignation was his mother, who curiously passed the news to her local paper. So the story of the Chancellor of the Exchequer's shock resignation thereby became a scoop for none other than the Grimsby Evening Telegraph, relegating the man found asleep exclusive to page 2. Paul and John, presidential crisis for you.
Oh, yes.
This is the man with the long hair.
Very long hair there.
Before.
Oh,
This is actually not President Clinton. This is after.
Yes, that's after the haircut, isn't it?
He had his haircut on a plane, and it blocked the entire air network of the United States for hours on end.
Must have been a lot of hair then, mustn't it? Get caught in the propellers, I suppose.
It is the news that Los Angeles airport was shut whilst the most important person in America ordered her husband's hair to be cut. The president had apparently been to another barber only 48 hours earlier to get his sideburns and neck trimmed. Didn't realise we had a werewolf in the White House. Still, no ear hair, that's the main thing. Revelling in Clinton's discomfort...
What about those sideburns? What do we think of the sideburns? Rubbish, yeah, I thought so.
Sorry, has this turned into some sort of game show where taking votes from the audience?
Yeah.
Front page of the Daily Star tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Angus's sideburns in TV horror. They're rubbish, claims disgruntled studio audience.
Well...
So why are you growing them?
Well, I don't grow them, they just grow on their own, really.
Well, they wouldn't grow on their own if you just put them in a dish and left them there. You must accept some responsibility for your own hair.
Well, I don't sort of rub fertiliser into them, if that's what...
I didn't suggest you did rub fertiliser in them. I asked you why you were growing them.
So were we talking about Bill Clinton just now? Or,
the subject has moved on to a far more interesting area.
Well, that's as maybe. Revelling in Clinton's discomfort...
So is there a reason why you grow them?
I'm actually growing them because your wife rather liked them.
Let her grow her own.
Revelling in Clinton's discomfort was Ross Perot, who let it be known that his own haircut cost £6.
Looks like it and all,
yeah.
doesn't it?
I think he was robbed, actually. Ian and Alan, what's all this then?
It's a policeman. Good grief, is that a Morris dancer?
It's about the Masons, that's what they are.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything?
How do you know that?
Well, I could tell by
It's a
the
secret.
handshake.
How on earth did you know?
And what have they been doing this week?
Well, one group has excluded the other group, and the Masons have told the police they can't join the Masons. No, in fact, the Police Federation gave them permission to roll their trousers up and wear pinnies and ponce about. And that's what policemen are going to do now. It's going to scare the shit out of most criminals, I would think.
It is the vote by the Police Federation that Masons within the force should not have to declare their membership publicly. Delegate Peter Watson said that it would be pointless to bring in such a regulation anyway because policemen that were Masons would never sign a confession. Well, I'm sure they could find someone else to sign it for them. They usually do. Paul and John, a wet one for you.
This is...
Oh, nearly. Nearly caught somebody there, didn't they? I don't know, there was a boat race last week, and Group 4 security had a boat out there that came second.
Any idea what the race was?
Yes, it was the Round Britain boat race for security companies. Securicor came in first, I think. And Safe Are Us came in third.
Yes, it is the Round the World Yacht Race, the final leg of which has been won by Group 4 Yacht, whose flag was stolen while the crew was celebrating the latest. At one point during the race, the Group 4 crew docked in Rio and were introduced to Ronnie Biggs. Must have been nice to meet someone who escaped from the police without their help. Which intriguing disinformation brings us hollering to the end of this first flush, and the briefest of thrills can be gleaned from the fact that, well, both Ian and Alan and Paul and John have a crazy 4. And so, with round 2 straining at the leash, we toss both teams the bare bones of our caption competition. Ian and Alan have this to chew over. Paul and John have this. And so, with the mixture of disdain and indifference, we enter the festering world of tabloid headlines. One piece of cryptic wordplay each. Paul, what's going on here, then?
This is the bloke who had his ear cut off, and it fell into a river, and a fish swallowed it. And 6 months later, the Queen Mother ate the fish, and the ear got stuck in her throat.
It's not 100% accurate.
Well, it's
Another listening device stuck inside the royal family.
Yes, it was a man who had his ear cut off in a sort of pub brawl, and it was found and put in some ice, and he was asked to come in and collect it, but he couldn't hear, so, you know...
Correct, it's all about a Southampton man who, according to the police, lost his ear in a punch-up. The police stored the ear next to a constable's egg roll in the station fridge, where, unfortunately, it went off. The ear's now in no condition to be sewn back on, but doctors say that they may be able to help him if he doesnn't mind walking around with an egg roll on the side of his face. John, some infantile nonsense for you. 6 of the best.
This, I suppose, can only be the sextuplets. Can I say words like that?
Tuplets? Yes,
tuplets, yes. This is the tuplets,
Right.
six of them, who were born to a couple who had nothing to do with one another. Apparently didn't live together. And,
Never met, I heard.
Never met, I think. No.
That's right.
And, of course, when they do meet, presumably they'll have lots and lots of babies. Well, we hope. At any rate.
Thousands.
So
Yes.
when they're introduced.
Yes, it is. It's miracle mum Jean Vince, her name was, who gave birth to 6 babies in 6 minutes. The hospital consultant, Dr. Newell, said everyone came out pink and wriggling. sort of expert analysis you come to expect from top politicians. The following night, the babies were all said to be doing well on ventilators. Obviously, so few beds around in the NHS these days, they have to stick them in the air conditioning unit. Alan, a familiar phrase for you, or at least to Ian it will be. Have you gone mad, my lord?
Oh, yes. Well, you have to work this backwards. If you read it in the papers, it seems to be about a young woman juror who wanted a career as a model. She was 5'10" and willowy, said in The Sun. Mm. But in order to do this, someone had to whistle at her from the public gallery first, so some bloke stood up in the public gallery and whistled at this woman, and a man called Judge Kilfoyle gave him 2 weeks.
And she didn't mind, but he said it was contempt of court, which is, you know, a fairly common condition nowadays, but it wasn't what she was up for.
What was she up for, Ian?
She was up for a modelling assignment in The Sun, really.
She was a juror, wasn't she?
She wasn't up for anything.
But he was just in the public gallery. He wasn't up for anything either. Fascinating story, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Judge Geoffrey Kilfoyle, well done for getting the name as well, who sent a teenager to prison for wolf whistling a juror because, according to the judge, it was a serious matter, not a trivial matter where no jail sentence is required, like, for instance, selling arms to Iraq to use on British soldiers. The boy, Paul Powell, said it's wrong to be jailed for what most men do all the time. I thought he was just wolf whistling. I didn't realise he was doing that as well. The juror, for her part, said at the time, "It's very embarrassing, I just want to forget it," as a result of which, the next day, she posed for numerous photographs and talked to every tabloid newspaper in the country. Ian, an old friend for you. Maxwell to Face the Music.
They're making a musical of Maxwell's sad life and death. And they're casting, and the man's got to be able to sing jolly Gilbert and Sullivan tunes and dance around the stage.
And fall off the edge of the stage.
Yes, it's the news that there's to be a West End musical about the life and death of Robert Maxwell. Robbie Coltrane has already been approached to play the yacht. They'll be charging the usual West End prices for tickets, but with special rates for pensioners. They'll be paying double. And at the end of all that, the terrifying situation we find ourselves in is that both sides are proving equally infallible, both Ian and Alan and Paul and John enjoying a pert 8. And so we splutter flatulently into our penultimate odd one out round. 4 trusty men of their word. Which one is the Patrick Mayhew? Paul, your happy family is Ludwig Kennedy, Alan Clark, MP, Katie Boyle, and Basil Brush.
Basil Brush. Well, Basil Brush is the only one who works with a hand up him. Although, looking at Ludwig Kennedy... I think it is, because somebody said recently, didn't they, that they thought that Ludwig Kennedy was too old to be a sort of broadcaster because now he's sort of in his early 70s or whatever. And I suppose it's because he's considered too old and Katie Boyle is considered too old, and there's a rumour that Basil Brush is just a puppet and wouldn't matter whether he was employed or not. Alan Clark's father was Lord Clark, and I think he made the point that if you'd had this rule years ago, then his father wouldn't have made this marvellous Civilisation series.
He's floundering, isn't he?
Joyously, you're completely wrong.
This is men who've told all in diaries or books. Ludwig Kennedy wrote his memoirs, which were very graphic. I think Katie Boyle did. Alan Clark certainly just has done.
Yes.
And Basil Brush, I don't think has written his memoirs, though I may have missed it. I'm barking. Or was that Alan Clark's? Probably nearer.
It's an excellent guess and intriguing information, but nowhere nearer than Paul's guess, unfortunately.
One of them's a fox.
Well, it's nearer, certainly, insofar as it contains the word fox, which is part of the answer.
Hunting.
Is the other part of the answer.
Yes, because Ludwig Kennedy has come out in favour of fox hunting, and Alan Clark's in favour of fox hunting.
No, he's against.
Is he?
Yeah, he's against.
Well, I can't think that Basil Brush is in favour of fox hunting. Unless he just treats it as a way of meeting new people. No, it's got to be Basil Brush. All the other 3 are sort of like a bit of fox hunting.
Well, I think Ian was the first person to say fox hunting.
He was the first person to say fox.
And hunting.
Was he?
Yeah. They've all spoken out against fox hunting with the exception of the well-known liberal Ludovic Kennedy, who's even made a video endorsing it. He claims fox hunting is the most humane way of killing animals, as shotguns are too messy and gin traps too cruel. You could always try not killing them at all. That might be even more humane. John, 4 of the world's hard men for you. Norman Schwarzkopf, looking gorgeous. Henry Fonda, Abe Lincoln, and Margaret Thatcher.
Looking gorgeous, I would say.
Looking gorgeous. They've all written books. I'm Flaming. They've all written books which were extremely interesting, except for anyone you like to mention. They've all got funny expressions. 3 of them got hats on. I don't.
Could it be that Margaret Thatcher's the only one who's never served in uniform?
She was a nippy for a time.
A what?
A nippy, a Lion's waitress for a time.
Oh, was she?
At the Corn House.
Is that where the hat comes from?
Salads and soft drinks. Did you not know this?
No.
About the great Thatcher, in a bombazine. Well, in a bombazine.
Do you have these?
Why would you be
Nippy? What's going on?
It's absolutely true. She served gamely at the Regent Palace.
Do you have these fantasies often?
I'm just crossing my legs, John, to get rid of it.
It's, I think,
No.
more of a perversion than
Well, we know the answers. How long are we going to leave this flounder?
There's nothing that links any of them.
Oh, well.
It's an excellent guess.
That's the foreign affairs expert.
And his other guess was 3 of them got hats on as well.
Well, this is the link is the Gettysburg Address. I'd hate to sound swotty here.
Come on.
But
There's no way around it. You've got to, but it doesn't matter. We get the point.
3 of them have recorded the Gettysburg Address with a big band sound behind. Schwarzkopf, Henry Fonda, and even Maggie did it, sort of special cassette of Maggie reading out stuff about liberty.
3 copies.
It's a real
would be...
corker, actually. Very, very funny. And the only person who didn't do a recording of it is Lincoln himself.
That
A, 'cause
doesn't
he
sound
wrote
at
it.
all likely to me. I don't think
It's implausible but completely correct.
Yes.
It's, they have all made recordings of the Gettysburg Address, with the exception of its originator, Abe Lincoln, who was overlooked by all the major record labels. Lincoln predicted that the world would soon forget his speech, which has since been quoted ad infinitum, but that we would never forget what the brave men of Gettysburg had achieved. Which was what, exactly? In case you haven't heard Mrs. Thatcher's version, here's an extract which is only permitted by EMI if we don't say anything rude about it. So.
And that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
I never realised Rory Bremner needed the work so much.
Yes, well, we weren't rude about it, were we?
It was shit, though, wasn't it?
Alan, 4 incompatibles for you. Peregrine Worsthorne, Cary Grant, John Simpson here, and Colin Angus, lead singer of The Shaman.
Be very careful what you say.
I think...
Are you a fan of The Shaman?
It's a nasty wart he's got there.
I think they could be fertility drug quadruplets born to Barbara Cartland. But they're not. I also... it just occurred to me that John Simpson is no stranger to the weed. He has danced naked in the jungle with something up his ooter.
Is this the time to walk out, or do I wait till later?
Well, I know very little
lawyers
about modern stars of the video. Would they take drugs, do you suppose?
What Peregrine Worsthorne?
No.
It is drugs, yes.
Because I know Grant took them. He always had that fixed smile on his face, because if he changed it, the back of his nose fell out. And I'm sure Peregrine Worsthorne, despite the hat, has never taken anything.
Well, if you read the Sunday Telegraph, they're on something.
Well, is Worsthorne the odd one out because he doesn't do stuff?
It is a perfect answer, yes.
Am I allowed
to chip in?
It's true.
No. Yes, you can set the world to rights.
I was in the jungle. I was in the jungle.
There was nothing on the telly, I was bored.
It seemed a good idea at the time.
I smoked a few trees.
Half-naked savages came towards me waving implements. That was the television crew. They boiled up some stuff. I thought... I drank it. I thought I was going to see the secret of the universe. But it's actually true that a 6-foot goldfish put his flipper around my shoulders. I think this is the time to tell you he had dark glasses and a straw hat on. And said, "How's it going, man?" And I said, "Fine, thanks." And he then evaporated, and that rests the case for the defence.
It might well be the secret of the universe. That might...
Do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, that fish that was caught in the Queen Mother's throat might have been trying to communicate with us. All you need is love or something.
Was that 6 foot?
It wasn't by the time she'd finished chewing it.
Is that the only time you've been stoned? What about...
Can we just talk this over privately afterwards?
No, well, we'll sort this out later, obviously. Yes, the answer, you may remember, is that they have all taken hallucinogenic drugs, except Sir Peregrine Worsthorne, whose parents must presumably have taken some before they named him. Sir Peregrine once expressed a desire to try LSD and also said that Mrs. Thatcher was the finest leader this country's ever had. It sounds like he doesn't really need any stimulant. John Simpson here, whilst working in the South American jungle, as we heard, took mind-expanding drugs. He said, light spread and grew in my head, and a nearby tree turned into the great Ishtar Gate of Babylon.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yes. John Simpson, BBC News.
Somewhere in Babylon.
Yes, yes.
You haven't got any left, have you?
See me afterwards.
All right.
There's a little man out there with no clothes on.
Is there?
Yes.
And so...
Is that Martin Bell?
Only after you've had several drinks.
I'm just wondering, are we here, or is this just a trip you're having?
No, it is a trip, yeah, it is a trip.
This can't be real, we're losing, look.
No, it's real, I can assure you. And finally in this round, Ian, your 4 unlikely bedfellows. David Miller.
Lovely.
Antonia de Sancha, not so unlikely. Mrs. Thatcher, again. And the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah, well, Mellor's been on all of them. No, he hasn't. I think this is a PR question. Or probably one particular PR. They all hired Tim Bell. We're getting any nearer?
Yes,
Sir Tim Bell?
Dangerously close to getting 2 points.
Because BBC Television, fearing that it had damaged its image, hired Tim Bell, thus proving it had. He did do Thatcher. He definitely did Mellor. Antonia de Sancha is the only one that hasn't hired Tim Bell.
Is correct. And well done for 2 points. Well deduced. The answer is that they've all employed the same publicist, Tim Bell, except Antonio de Sancha, who chose his rival, Max Clifford. At the time of the Mellor scandal, there was a battle royal between Mellor and Tim Bell on one side and Antonia and Max Clifford on the other. And the clear winners were Tim Bell and Max Clifford, as the other two lost their jobs. Which shameless attention-seeking marks the end of this round of odd ones. And the situation, as we face the final curtain, is that Paul and John have a few regrets with 8, whilst Ian and Alan have much more than this with 15. And so the final act of public humiliation awaits as we prepare to indulge in our least and by all means last missing words round. They who lie second go first, so Paul and John, chops away. Major loses what in shuffle row?
Is it 9 of clubs?
No, it isn't.
It's not a pack of cards, it's a pack of idiots.
His cool is, in fact, the answer we were looking for. Next, we're boring, admits who?
It must be Arsenal, is it?
True, but not the answer.
There's so many candidates.
Is it Radio
we could
1?
just go on for a long time.
No, it's...
Radio 2.
Radio 3 is the right I'll give you one as you're so far behind, as it were. Next, drivers may have to what to use motorways?
Pay...
50 quid.
You.
Pay 50 quid is the simple and effective answer.
Buy cars.
And lastly... not quite that simple. And lastly, what sort for Palace, Lou?
Box of matches.
Airwick.
Airwick is a lovely answer, but not
Cleaner.
true.
Well,
Attendant.
Cleaners, attendants.
I said
Contract.
attendant.
No.
People who keep their mouth shut.
Yes, I'll give you one for that. Loyal staff is what we're actually looking for. Thank you. So, Ian and Alan, cop this. Weekend what? Backed by Labour.
Cabinet shuffles, probably.
Is it chocolate?
They'd back that. Weekend.
Weekend chocolates, no. Sadly not.
Shopping. Shopping.
Trading.
No, polling is what we were looking for. Priests told they cannot what?
I think believe in God is the answer, isn't it? Or is that just the C of E?
Bungee jump.
I don't think there is a word.
An inspired guess.
Is it marry?
Be fathers is what we were after. Next, beleaguered Lamont reveals what?
Reveals I'm innumerate. Je regrette too.
Restrain of job is a rather dull answer. And finally, Diana learns to talk what?
Dirty. Proper, really. I mean...
Well, I'll give you...
Full of marbles, isn't it?
It's full of marbles.
Is correct, with marbles. Extraordinary.
She's
Well
been given
done.
this voice tuition, so that when she rings up Squidgy and asks him how about it, she sounds better.
Don't tell me, I don't give a toss.
That's what he said.
Which chaotic ramblings herald the welcome finish to tonight's debacle. And the cheering news is that this week's miserable sinners are Paul and John with 11, whilst this week's happy hookers are Ian and Alan with 18.
Get some professional.
So, 2 tickets to Miss Saigon for our winners, 2 tickets to Maxwell the Musical for our losers. But before we issue their weekend passes, there's the brief irritation of our caption competition. So, Paul and John, what do you think of for this?
The 1922 committee vote for a name change.
I'd always knew cabinet hold up IQ levels. But then there's a 98, so I thought, yes.
Do-it-yourself bingo takes off in a big way.
Thank you.
Jury loves the Norwegian entry.
Ian and Alan, what about yours?
That's bottle of champagne and packet of raffles. Just sign here, Mr. Lamont.
Well, here's the address. Just ring the basement bell 3 times.
I thought the man on the right was saying, can you just write loser?
On which ribald note we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Alan Coren, Paul Merton and John Simpson. And I leave you with news that London Zoo today announced the birth of the world's first showbiz chicken. John Major reveals exactly what he's taken out of Scotland. And finally, there's chaos at a young socialist conference when Roy Hattersley sneezes on the podium. Join us for the last programme in the series next week when our guests will be Tony Slattery and Roy Hattersley. Good night.